Hello and welcome back to the Cardboard Box Item podcast. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all safe and happy and dry and sipping a nice hot chocolate. That's my usual intro. I'm here with Sean and Steve. Steve dialing in from Japan as per usual.
Konnichiwa.
And today we're talking about difficulty in video games in general. What games have kicked our arses? What games hold our hands too much? What's like a nice in-between? Just talking about it from various angles and trying to parse down why it's so important and like when you step back and think about it, it's something so unique to this medium as well. Like, it's not like there's a book that you can't finish because it's too fucking long or hard or something.
No.
Yeah, that's true.
Just thinking, like, there's a couple of books now that I've definitely put down because they're unrelated. Anyway, sorry. You were doing an intro. Go ahead.
The last time I tried to read the Bible, it kicked my ass.
It's a slog to get through.
You get halfway through Genesis and all that shit with the snakes happen, and it's like... Bro.
Game adaptation of the Bible, though, really good stuff.
Sorry, this
Bible
is
busters.
I'm already going to go on a tangent, but Sean, did you hear that like 30 poisonous snakes got released by accident in Finsbury Park?
No. When did that happen?
Last night.
What?
Yeah.
How is that an accident?
They escaped from a house.
Fucking who's got 30,000? Wait, how many?
30.
Oh, who's got 30 poison? Imagine if it was 30,000, the house would just be like up to the brim with snakes. It's like, she's gonna blow. Anyway,
probably the queens. That's our children, just like going out there, and obviously.
Yeah. Wow, that's wow. You could tell he's an Irishman with that comment.
Did they catch him?
I don't know, to be honest.
All right, anyway, tangent.
I thought you were going to say, did they name them all? That's Fred. That's Fred's brother. Anyway, let's get back on. So, difficulty in video games. I guess I wanted to open by asking, has there ever been a game that kicked your asses that you wanted to finish, but it was just too hard and you got frustrated or you just hit a brick wall? Steve?
Yeah, pretty much any game with a ninja in it has kicked my ass. Is like the obvious answer that you know, like Ninja Gaiden is a game that I really want to finish. I really, really want to play that game because it's got such a great reputation. But I've never been able. Like, I keep hitting walls in it, and like the furthest I think I've ever gotten in that game was like the 3rd level, and it's just so insanely difficult. It's not like Dark Souls difficulty where, you know, it's incremental. So like if you beat a certain part, you know that bit's beaten now. So you know how to do it. It's just like lightning fast reflexes. You have to keep this up for about 20 minutes. And if you lose, you lose. Back to start. Do it all again.
Any footage I've watched of Ninja Gaiden just seems so... It's like, come on. It's already like you've defeated like a hard boss, and then they throw 10 guys around a corner who instantly shoot you, and it's like that seems excessive. But I do hear people love those games and they get like generally good ratings, so there must be something to it.
It is fun is the thing. Like jumping around like a ninja is tons of crack, but it's just really brutally unfair. The bit that I got to, I remember. It was like Dark Souls. Like I'm gonna mention Dark Souls a million times on this podcast, I'm sure. But I remember I was practicing getting to the same bit again and again and again, and I just kept thinking to myself, "It's the last bit. This is very obviously the last part of the level. So if I beat this, I'm past it." And then when I finally did it, I just screamed yes, threw my hands into the air, and then a dinosaur came in and ate me. Like literally, like this giant monster out of nowhere, like. And I had no health left, no power-ups. I was just completely dead. It's like, this is impossible. The other game, actually, was the PlayStation 2 version of Shinobi, which I don't think many people played. But it was also a really difficult game. It was doable for the most part, but the last boss in that game, I tried so many times. I think for almost a solid year, I'd pick it up like periodically, like once a week or something, and just nope, can't beat him. So yeah,
that's got to be frustrating as well when it's the last boss.
Yeah.
You know, I know you typically want the last boss to be difficult or one of the more difficult parts of a game, but like you're so close to the end as well. Yeah. You just want to finish the fucking thing.
Yeah. How about you, Sean? Did you have any?
Well, I think for me, like, it's kind of more like games in general. Like, for example, like back in the day, like when I was a teenager or whatever, if I got stuck on a difficult part of a game, I would try again to get past it. But you know, now that I don't have as much time to play games, if like I find if any little thing, it's not that I like a challenge. It's not that I want to coast through a game, but if I get stuck like for more than half an hour on a part, I get really frustrated, and I'm like, I'm just gonna play something else. But
because you only have like a 2-hour window or something to play
in the evenings or whatever.
Yeah, so you don't want to be fucking stuck and frustrated. Yeah,
but like I have found that like that's happened me a bunch of times with games, and I'll do that. I'll go and play something else, and I'll forget about it. I'll take a break from the game for like sometimes months, and then I'll see it in my library. And I'll be like, oh yeah, sure. I remember I was stuck on that, but let me try it again, and I'll pass it first time. It'll just like click with me, and then I'll go and finish the game after that. Like one example of that is Rage 2. When I was playing that, I by accident I basically triggered a part of the game that like was possible to trigger at my level, but I didn't have enough like powerful weapons or abilities, and so I was up against this huge mech, and I just like did not have the weapons I needed to defeat him. So I was stuck on him for like days basically, and I finally just gave up, and I was like, I'm gonna play something else. Came back like 6 months later, and I got him first time, and then I went and completed the game. But then that fucking game, like there's a glitch in that game that still hasn't been patched, where the final boss can glitch out and basically stop you, like hard lock the game. So you can, or I think it's a hard lock or soft lock. I always forget which is which. But so you can't finish the game. So I had to reload a save from like halfway through the game and go through it again. And I was so pissed off. I was like, just let me complete this game, and then I'm never playing it again. And so that's what I did. But I mean, yeah, it's that kind of thing has happened to me on like lots of games before. There has been like games that are actually really difficult that I've stopped playing. Like Super Meat Boy was one of them. Like I loved the art style, and the gameplay in that is brilliant as well, but it's just so brutal, and it was just like playing the same level over and over again trying to beat it, and I just had to give up on that. I couldn't come back to it.
Something you touched on though is that in Rage 2 you came back to it like 6 months later or whatever and completed it again. I find that so difficult. I find if I stop a game, I have to, if I'm away from it for any significant amount of time, I have to start from the beginning again. Just like not only, well, the main reason would be because I don't remember the sort of muscle memory, like button layout or reflexes that you need, the rhythm of a game, which is especially like relevant for like Soulsborne games and stuff like that. But also it feels a very like truncated way it's like watching half a film and then watching the next half of it the next night. You know, I don't enjoy doing that either, I guess.
Yeah, it's not always doable. Like sometimes, you know, with a really difficult game, if you stop halfway through and come back to it, like a Souls game or something, and you're completely out of whack, then, you know, it takes a bit of time to pick it up again. For me, like, I guess it depends on the game, but like usually once I pick it up again, I'll kind of start to remember what I had done before, or if I don't remember, I'll just like watch a recap on YouTube before I kick off again.
That's a good idea.
You know? But yeah, it depends on the game.
I think some games, I don't know where I read it, but they're introducing like a previously on feature where it gives you like a little recap of what had happened up to that point in the game.
Oh wait, when you stop playing, like
yeah.
Oh, wow.
I thought I read that like there's some Xbox game that has that feature. So
that's really
I think that'd be a cool thing going forward.
I know there's some games that have done that already, like that have chapters or whatever, and then when you start a new chapter, like Resident Evil Revelations I think did that. So when you start a new chapter, it would say previously on, and it would show you everything up to that point, which is really nice because you could play the game in like increments that way, you know.
Fair.
It's funny. I think that you were like when you said that you went back to it and you were just like, just let me finish this game. So I'll never like. It's just like out of spite almost that you want to do it, which is fair, because if you play a game and it's immediately you hit a brick wall, I think it's a lot easier to just quit and say, right, this isn't for me. I'm just going to step aside here, like with Super Meat Boy. But if you've invested a certain amount of time into it, you really do want to say, but I beat it in the end. Like, there's nothing worse than making a lot of progress in a game and then just you can't get past it. It's a horrible, horrible feeling. I know what you mean. I've been there many a time.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, after leaving the game for like 6 months, coming back to it, getting to the final boss, and then the game craps out on me. I was like, you're not fucking doing me like this.
Yeah. One of us is walking away dead. Yeah. Okay.
Small side note, actually, and Michael will probably remember this because this happened in college. I remember Prince of Persia, Warrior Within, had a glitch before the last boss that if you saved your game just before the last boss, you couldn't enter the last boss room. It was insane. And I think three times I've played through that game and I've forgotten about that.
Oh, no.
The first time I didn't know about it and I just thought, okay, this is a one-off. The second time I did the exact same thing again. And that's when I looked it up and I realized, oh, this is the glitch. And the third time I did it, but I forgot about it and I glitched it. And I still haven't completed the second Prince of Persia game, even though it's not a difficult game. It's just, that one glitch messes it up.
That's actually the same glitch that was in Rage. It was like if you saved the game or something weird, like once you get the icon for the final boss and then you save the game and come back to it, it just craps out and the icon disappears and you can't get it back. So you have to basically, once the icon appears, go straight and do the final level without doing anything else.
That's so frustrating because like it's not helpful for people who are like, let's say you unlock the final boss just at like when you're about to go to bed or something. You don't want to be forced to continue and play the game. You wouldn't enjoy it as much anyway.
What about you, Michael? Is there any games that you quit on completely?
Tons. Now, I'm like, you guys are like, I'm going to persevere. I'm going to fight you
over here.
No, I will I'm like Sean. If like
Rugrats in Paris, still gathering dust because you couldn't finish it.
It's funny, those kids games can be surprisingly hard and janky sometimes. But no, if I come across anything, there are games like I've. Like some of the Souls games I've played through and like Hotline Miami, so like I do enjoy some hard games.
I mean, you completed Cyberpunk on the PS4 base edition.
So guys, like you can't even touch me, guys. Like I've been through hell. That's the Vietnam of video games right there. But it's funny that you say, like Steve was saying, the worst thing that can happen to a human being is getting to the end of a game and not completing it. That's a direct quote. I'm going to play the clip here. That's Steve.
Every time war survivors come at me with all their trauma, I'm like, but have you ever gotten halfway through Ninja Gaiden and then like haven't been able to complete it? You don't know, man. You don't know.
But you see, I have this horrible habit of getting through a game, getting to the final dungeon or the final boss, and just like it not even being hard. I just lose interest in completing it.
You do that a lot. It's really bizarre. I can't figure you out as a human being.
I know. It's like maybe crazy. I sort of, if I take a step back and try and psychoanalyze myself, maybe it's a thing of I don't want to finish the experience because then it's over.
But like you're never.
That's weird.
No, that is weird. Yeah, because like that reminds me of my sister because she was playing Red Dead 2. I think was it Red Dead 2 or. Yeah, I think it was Red Dead 2, and I was like, oh, have you completed it yet? She had it for ages, and she's like, no, because I don't want it to end. And like, so she's going through the game really, really slowly. And I'm like, that's pointless though. Like, you have to experience it.
I think I just because like that's the end of the content. Yeah. So once I get there, it doesn't really interest me as much anymore because like, unless it's a story where I need to see what happens at the end, but very rarely is it the ending or the goal that I'm looking towards. It's like the journey. So like there's like a handful of Final Fantasy games where I've just got to the end and just didn't bother finishing the end. But just like, couldn't have been arsed.
You've done the journey though, so you know what the journey is. So it's just you literally just need to do the final level or whatever.
But it's only for a sense of completion, and I guess I don't have that in me that I need to see the credits. Yeah, I just don't because I just. It's
you heard it here, guys. Michael Pender, quitter.
Yeah, just fucking.
You are my polar opposite, honest to God.
How are we friends? Like Final Fantasy games are a good example because very rarely are the endings like a standout part in those games. Some of them are just like, what the fuck just happened? For me, it's all about the journey, leveling up, meeting these characters. And when I have completed some of them, and I think this year I've probably completed more games than I have in a long time. Cyberpunk being the first game I completed this year. But yeah, there's just something in me and that can be tied to difficulty sometimes. Like if I do come across a hard boss, but most of the time it's just like, couldn't be fucked.
That's mad that you get that far though and you're like, yeah, not into this game anymore. But I know that's not even it. It's just like, nah, I'll just leave that aside forever and never come back to it.
And the thing is, I do say sometimes, oh, I'll come back to that, but I find that so hard.
Yeah.
I do find, like I was saying, I find it really hard to jump back in. But, so those are all games that like kicked our arses. But on the flip side of that, are there any games that you've played through and you've thought, okay, I've completed that game, but it felt far too easy. I needed more of a challenge.
Well, I was going to say when you were talking about kind of not wanting to finish an experience or whatever, like there's some games where like there's not really much difficulty at all, kind of more like relaxing games like walking simulators and
Journey and things like that.
That kind of thing. Like one that really comes to mind. Well, actually, two that come to mind pretty strongly for me are, I'd say, Abzu. Which, if anyone doesn't know, is like kind of a
Journey underwater.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a beautiful game. The art style, everything, it's amazing. There's pretty much no difficulty in it though. It's just go from point A to point B and enjoy the world, the gameplay world. And another game would be Firewatch, which is another game with like gorgeous like graphics and everything, but it is a walking simulator, that game.
I'd say those are subcategories though, because they're not supposed to challenge you. Like if anything, the only difficulty you could say is present there is emotional difficulty. It challenges you like in intellectual and emotional ways rather than physical, skillful ways.
And I guess that's an interesting part of the medium. I was saying earlier that like you can't finish a book or something, and because it's too hard. Like obviously you can if you just wanted to, but games generally do challenge skill rather than emotion, and I guess those two are examples of where it like Steve was saying, intellectually, as in like it's presenting you sometimes with something abstract and saying, how do you interpret this? I think Inside would be a good example of something that has a bit of both. Mm-hmm. It's not an especially difficult game, but I know, like, I died a ton of times going through that game. But it's a lot more challenging to your, like, reading of the game. It's challenging you with its imagery and stuff like that.
They're different things. They're different types of like
challenge,
difficulty or challenge, I guess. Yeah. So
having said that though, can I blow everyone's mind with a hot take?
Go for it.
A lot of modern games have gotten too easy.
Oh my god.
I know this
100%.
This is a concept that has not been explored thoroughly before, but honestly, they're just too... You know what I was thinking the other day when you brought this topic up? I was actually thinking of the original Red Dead Redemption and how incredibly easy the shooting mechanics in that game. You don't even have to think about shooting in that game at all. You just do the Deadeye thing and it automatically targets everybody. There is zero challenge in that.
Well, sure, I'm pretty sure that game and the second one and the GTAs as well, like all those types of games have auto aim, or not auto aim, but like soft lock aim, kind of like when you aim your weapon, it will snap toward.
I think most modern console shooters have some version of that. But
now another hot take. I actually don't think that's such a bad thing.
I would agree. Yeah.
Because I was thinking just the way the likes of Red Dead Redemption controls, if you were to add like loose shooting mechanics so that you had to actually manually aim, I would probably hate that game.
Yes, I agree.
And the beauty is you can manually aim in that if you want as well. Like in most of these games, you can turn off the snap lock aiming.
Aim assist.
Aim assist, sorry, that's the word. Yeah.
And on that point, I think some games are best enjoyed if they do have variable difficulty, like as in you can select easy, medium, hard, or whatever they want to call it. There are some games that are best enjoyed on an easy mode. I would argue that the Uncharted series is at its best when it's played in easy mode, because you're playing that for the characters, the set pieces. I think the shooting is the worst part of those games, like without a doubt. Yeah, I really don't like the shooting in any. I think it's boring, and on the harder difficulties, it just gets into like bullet sponge enemies, and it's
true.
It's a trudge more than anything.
They're bullet sponge enemies are horrible, but having said that, I've never really found that with Uncharted myself. Like, I played 4 fairly recently, and I thought I played it on regular difficulty, which I felt was just right. There was just enough challenge to keep me interested. So
I did. Yeah. I did try the Platinum 2 on the PS3, and to get the Platinum, I think you had to play it in the hardest difficulty. I can't remember what it was called, but yeah, they were definitely bullet sponges in that difficulty. It was crazy. But I think on a whole, like, I wouldn't say, maybe you're right in that it's probably the worst aspect of the game so much. Like, if you compare it to like the platforming and the story and stuff, would be a lot better, and the puzzle, well, even the puzzles are only okay, to be honest. But I don't think it's like, for a third person shooter, I think it stands up pretty well. Like, I don't think it's bad. And
I think in 4 it got a bit better, because you had like, you could didn't you get like a rope or a grappling hook or something that you could like jump around the arenas and stuff like that, and it was a bit more dynamic. But like, the first 3, it's just like cover. It's generic cover
it's
shooter.
Cover-based third-person shooter. But it's like, it is what it is.
It's only heightened by like the huge set pieces that you're taking part in during those shootouts for me. And I guess those are best enjoyed when you're not thinking about, you're not like worrying about your skill set or stuff too much. You're just trying to get forward, and it's sort of like almost a suspension of disbelief thing. If you're doing a big chase, and like lots of the Uncharted games have big chase scenes, if you're doing a big chase and you keep dying and dying and dying on one, like in one bit in the middle of the chase, it really interrupts the flow. Like, those games are best enjoyed where you can just like blast through them, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do agree with you there. But yeah, my only like defense for the game would be that, you know, it's not just a shooter. So having that cover-based system in there, you know, it could be worse. Like, I think it suits the game fine. It's just to break up through the platforming and the puzzling.
I'm not saying that. I just think if having that as an app, or having that not as difficult, really it enhances my enjoyment of the game.
Yeah.
Anyway,
would it just be? I'm thinking about this now. Uncharted. And I think for me, the only part of the combat I ever really hated, which you put your finger on it there, was the bullet sponge enemies. Like, when you get those armored enemies that just take forever to kill. Like, this is a really typical example of when they try to increase game difficulty, but they're not really doing it in a particularly effective way. They say, just amp up the health that they have, or give them more power or something, rather than, give them an interesting new attack which they've never encountered before. That'll increase the difficulty here. So it's annoying when they take that. I wouldn't say it's a lazy approach, because obviously these games are really difficult to make, but an easier approach. And when they do that sometimes, like in those examples, it does show, and it can be a little frustrating. But overall, I think that the difficulty in Uncharted, for me at least, it's always just at the level where it's challenging me just a little bit all the time, which keeps it engaging. It's never at a point where it's too easy, like ever, but it's never at a point where it's insurmountable like so many other games.
So on that point, this is a question for everyone, but do we need a little bit of challenge to keep us going? So you were saying like Uncharted just has like enough to engage you, enough to keep you going, but are there games, and I guess you mentioned Abzu and Firewatch and stuff like that, where, you know, the challenge isn't part of it?
I think a good thing to bring up with that is how like the length of the game too. So like for Abzu and Firewatch, they're pretty short games. There's not a lot of challenge in them, but I think if I was to play a game that's 20 hours long and I was just like floating through it,
yeah, fair,
and it'd still be 20 hours, even though, because I'm not dying or anything like that, I think I would start to get bored. I would just be interested in seeing the locations and all that kind of thing, and maybe enjoying the story. But I do think I do think a little bit of challenge is needed, to be honest, at least for me anyway. Like I said, I do kind of get frustrated if I get stuck on a part over and over. But if I like die in a mission or on a level and I realize, okay, I did something stupid there, you know, I'll go again and avoid doing that. And you know, maybe maybe I do die 2 or 3, 4 times, you know. But if it's something I'm stuck on for like hours, I'm like, I don't have time for this. Do you know what I mean? Or like, I'll come back to this at some point, whatever, you know.
That's a good point actually about like a length of a game, and like I guess we do need some engagement there, because I loved Nier Automata, but that would be maybe one flaw I would throw at it, is it's a little too easy, especially for a game that asks you to complete it 4 or 5 times to see the true ending. It never really, and with that game it's unique though, because it throws so many different new gameplay types at you so quickly that it can't be too difficult, because it's asking you to learn new skills on the fly. So it has to have a base level that everyone can adapt to these things.
It kind of almost sounds weird, you like me listening to you say it back, that we're arguing that a long game being easy is, you know, without what we don't like. But I think it makes sense, because if the game is if you know it's going to take you like however many hours to get to the end of this game, you want to feel like you deserve that, and I guess like the sense of achievement. Whereas if you just coasted through the game, no bother, it kind of just feels like not a waste of time, but you know, you didn't really achieve anything by getting there.
The feeling of accomplishment isn't there, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, trying to drill down into why we enjoy this challenge is, I guess if you wanted to nail it down, it's probably why we enjoy any challenge. It can be cathartic to overcome something, and the more challenging it is, the more, in most cases, the more rewarding it feels to overcome it. Yeah. And that's maybe one of the reasons why we saw that explosion in popularity with the Demon Souls and Dark Souls games. It's very hard for me to remember what games were like then, because I wouldn't agree with the narrative that all games were easy then and Demon Souls was the only hard game that came out, and then that spurred. I do think there was a sea change, because we had a lot more hand holding and very, you know, safe third person action adventure games on the market. But
yeah,
I was just thinking, I'm trying to think of any game I played that was so easy that I was just like, this is too easy, I'm bored, I'm going to stop playing this, because I can't think of any game at all that was too easy. Like if I was bored by something, it was probably, you know, the story itself wasn't interesting, or the gameplay loop wasn't interesting. It was never a case of the challenge was too unengaging. Can you guys think of any that like the game itself was literally too easy and that stopped you from playing?
No, I guess maybe because like we enjoy games holistically. We don't just say, oh, I like the graphics, so that means I play the game when every other element is horrible. Like as a good story can draw us through a game, but it will, if everything else is bad, it will impact our enjoyment of it. And I think you hit upon the nub of it, the rub. You can't separate difficulty from the gameplay loop. You can have like a difficult game, but if it's enjoyable to play and it's fun, like you said Ninja Gaiden is, then you will have a good time with it. And similarly, it won't be just that a game is too easy that you won't play through it. Like Journey is very, like anyone can complete Journey in a way, but it's not, no one complains about it being too easy. It's about the journey.
Yeah.
Hence the name Journey.
I'm thinking, like, I'm trying to think of, you know, the easiest game I can possibly think of. The one I'm thinking of at the moment is actually, it's the original Rugrats game on the PlayStation 1. That was one of the easiest games I ever played in my entire life. And it should be in the title, you know, it's about babies. So, like, of course, it's pretty easy. But even on the easiest sections of those, there is a bit of challenge. One of the easiest levels is there's a game of hide and seek and you have to find like 4 other people, but that's still a bit of a challenge if you don't know where they are. You do have to look for them. So there's a small challenge there, enough to keep you engaged. I think people said games became too easy just because games on the likes of the NES and the SNES were they hadn't innovated in such a way, so a lot of those games were really inaccessible for a lot of people. Like they were punishingly difficult, and then games became more accessible, but a lot of people just read that as a decreasing difficulty and that we're babying people. But I really don't think that's true, actually.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Like, and I guess one element we have to remember is that not everyone's at the same skill level, and you don't want people to not be able to enjoy all the content of a game just because they haven't played enough. That's really like a huge barrier to new people enjoying video games. Like people who are just starting, like if their first console's a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series S or whatever. There has been a little bit of controversy. I won't say a big deal because like it can get blown out of proportion, but Psychonauts 2, which is coming out in a few weeks, they revealed that there'll be an Invincibility Mode. So you can play through the game, but you can't be killed by like combat or anything else. And you had a lot of guys on Twitter being like, oh, this is dumbing down our games and nobody asked for this. And the common refrain is this a game journalist mode? Because like there's this thing that game journalists are meant to be bad at games. But like,
wow, what a dig.
Yeah, I know. You're bad at the thing that's central to your job. That's pretty ow. But like first of all, it's optional.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
And like, second of all, if there's plenty of people who play games who aren't like, you know, who may have a disability or something like that as well, or maybe a bit younger and, like I was saying, not as used to playing games, hasn't played a load of games. So if you want to leave a mode in that helps them complete the game, then like more power to you.
And I think just the main thing you said right there is it's an option. You know, it's not the main way to play the game. So I don't really understand why everybody's getting on their high horse about it, you know? Like, just don't play it if you don't want to play that mode, you know?
There's a lot of options like this where, you know, they literally, the game designers have put an accessibility option into the game, and it's literally a way to show that they respect the player's time, you know?
Yeah.
Because previous games, like the games that people like, you know, hold on a pedestal and say, this is what a proper difficult game was like. It was difficult, yeah, but it was more so it was difficult because if you lost, you got sent all the way back to the start of the game and you had to do it again. And everyone was like, oh, Jesus, I have to go through all of those levels all over again. And like that was difficult and frustrating. But like one thing I really enjoyed that I've been doing lately is I've been playing all the old Super Nintendo games on the Switch. And so the Switch Online has the rewind function, so that if you make a mistake, you can literally just hold the shoulder buttons and go back a few seconds and then just try again whatever bit you just died on, rather than going all the way to the start of the level. And I love that. I think that's fantastic. I think a lot, I'm not saying that all games should do that, but these are all classic games, so a lot of them just didn't innovate in such a way that, and they wanted to extend their shelf life, so they did it in such a way that if you died, then you went back to the start, so that the people who'd bought the game, it would last them for a longer time. But obviously now we're saturated with games, so we don't have as much time. So this way, if you play it like this, you can experience the game really quickly and get pretty much the full experience out of it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point about like games artificially extending their length through difficulty, and that's definitely true. And I think even before that, like a precursor to console games was of course arcade games, and they would make themselves deliberately difficult so people would have to spend more money to complete them. And I think that's sort of the you know, the ground zero for a lot of that current trend of hardcore gaming, I guess, and that it comes from them just wanting to make more money out of games. It did lead to some great games, and I'm sure like it's one of those weird design quirks that like sparked off some really good games. But it's sort of like a lives system. Any game on a console that has a lives system is just, why bother? Like, just it's not like we have to put in more coins for it. Just let us keep playing the game. Like, don't send us back to the very beginning just because we died three times or whatever. It seems antiquated, to be honest.
Yeah, the new Sonic game that's coming out, Sonic Colors, which is a remaster of like a Wii game, which is only about 10 years old now at this point. But they changed, the original game had a live system, which was one of the worst things about any Sonic game. That and the gameplay. But
wasn't there one where he kissed a human woman?
Yeah, Sonic 06. Yeah, promoting bestiality for all. That was just a train wreck of a game. We don't speak of that one.
Okay.
But Colors was actually one of the better games, but it still had the live system, which was awful. And now in the remake or the remaster, they've replaced lives completely with just a checkpoint system. So instead of having to do the entire level again, you just have to go back to maybe a halfway point or a third of the way through the level. It's a much better system, and I can't see anyone complaining about it.
Yeah, fair. I think some older game design just really didn't lend itself to, like, respecting people's time, I think, is the main thing that you touched upon.
There's plenty of games nowadays, though, like roguelites, though, that do the whole start from the start once you die.
I think they innovate on it in some interesting ways sometimes, though, as in, because a lot of times when you start again, you
keep your
you sometimes have your abilities,
yeah,
or you learn something about the level. And that's what I was saying, like, coming from that arcade thing where it was just like a mechanic to make money, make it artificially difficult, leads to like roguelikes and stuff like that, where it's sort of an interesting mechanic and they play with it a bit. I think I haven't played Hades, but I think in that you keep your abilities and upgrades every time you go back, so eventually like you'll get more powerful, and like it's a central mechanic of the game is like you being reincarnated over and over again.
Yeah.
Can't really comment on that though. I absolutely hate roguelites, whatever they're called.
Yeah, they do annoy me, to be honest. Like, I've played a few that they always look really cool, but then like when you die and go back to like, for fuck's sake. But I really want to play Hades because I've heard so many good things about that.
I've heard good things about that. I think the reason I want to play Hades too, and the reason I like that compared to other roguelites, is because it sidesteps the main issue I have, in that roguelites are usually randomly generated. And that means that there's no real structure to it. So it all looks really samey and boring. Whereas that has a fairly solid story running through it and that's inspired by the roguelike genre. So, they do something really interesting there that I think works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have heard the story is like one of the driving things in it as well. So one thing I wanted to touch upon is, and this question seems to rear its head every year or two, is should Dark Souls have an easy mode?
What the hell was that?
Sorry, I hit
Sean
the mic.
just hates that question so much he had to headbutt the mic.
This is how I feel about this.
Sorry.
This is the Dark
Jesus,
Souls of
Can
podcasts.
we keep that in?
If Sean's outrage is complete, like I'm so glad that you brought up Dark Souls. I have the definitive answer to that question, and the answer is no. There should not be an easy mode in Dark Souls.
Play the
Next
outro.
question. Done. But do you guys think there should be?
No, well, no,
No.
because first of all, I think when you play through the games, you realize that they are somewhat adaptive, as in there are ways to play them that do make the experience easier. I think one of the easiest or most famous ones is to play as like a fire throwing enemy in the earlier Dark Souls games. Does make a significantly easier experience. Like, I do, if you take it from an accessibility stance and say that like there are certain people who just cannot play through these games, then yes, I can sort of see the argument. And I do think the game to a certain extent could stand up without having as much difficulty, as in the world building and lore and just the environment design or the level design is so good in those games that you could get a certain amount of enjoyment out of it. But difficulty is so, like, it's such a integral part of those games. It's hard to unmix that paint as well. It's hard to even like know what the experience would be like.
Yeah, I mean, a really big part of the Dark Souls game is just how oppressive and like crushingly depressing the world is now, and how insurmountable the challenges are. So if it was a really, really easy game, I just don't think people would be as enthused about it. But the other thing is, people ask, should there be an easy mode in it? I'd argue it already kind of does, because for the game, and almost always with every single boss, you can just summon people to help you. I mean, that's basically an easy mode. Like whenever I play the games, no matter how much I want to, I never summon anybody else to help me. I always take every single boss by myself, because I feel like that would be an easy mode, and I just really don't want to go down into that. So yeah, like I feel like that in itself is more than enough. And it is one of those, like, obviously what you're saying, Michael, that it shouldn't, like, games should be accessible to, if people have a disability and all that. And I think 100% true, but you couldn't really do that with every single game. It would just cost so much money, because you have to consider every single disability and impairment. And if you're adjusting for all of those, it would almost get to the point where it's barely even a game anymore. Where do you draw the line?
It's so far from its original intent. But I guess, like, if these are optional, maybe that's okay as well. Yeah. But
like, I know The Last of Us Part 2 apparently has like a blind mode in it. You can play it like if you're blind, there's like a narrative voice telling you what's happening and what you can do. So that's incredible. That's but I can't see, standard indie studios doing what Naughty Dog does. Like, so
it does take a lot of resources. We do have to acknowledge that, like, not every game studio will be able to, like, not every game studio can make a game with variable difficulty, let alone any sort of accessibility modes. But no, I take that point. I know you haven't played the Souls game, Sean, but like, if Doom, I know Doom would have, like, it has varying difficulty, but would you ever play that on easy mode, or is it sort of okay, I've committed to, like, the normal or hard mode, so I'm sticking to it?
I always try my utmost to stick to the original difficulty I've chosen, mainly because of, like, achievements and stuff. But also,
do you mean achievements as in, like, getting trophies and stuff like that? Okay.
Yeah, but well, also, it's the challenge. Like, I don't want to fucking give in and go back to pass level maths or whatever, which I
that's fair.
have to do.
I went back to pass level maths, Sean.
So did I.
Lads, we're three lads talking about video games who aren't good at maths and had to do pass level maths.
Of course we went back to pass level maths.
There's no nerds here.
But
no, there's three nerds
But
here.
no, Doom is actually a good comparison to Dark Souls, because it is, like, it can be brutally difficult as well.
And it's a huge part of the game, yeah.
And sure, I started Doom Eternal and, like, almost straight away stopped playing it because it was too difficult. I need to go back to it, but that game was different from the first one, where, like, the first one had a gradual ramp up in difficulty because it was teaching you the mechanics. Yeah. But with Eternal, it kind of just threw you in, like, you've played the first one, you know what to do. And it was, like, brutally hard straight away. I think most 9 times out of 10 I'll try and stick with the difficulty that I started on, basically.
So
that's funny about Doom. I think they do the same in the original Doom and Doom 2, because, like, the original one ran so I think so. I'm trying to remember, but I'm fairly certain I remember the first time I played Doom 2. Instead of going in and, you go through 3 rooms before you find your first enemy, it's like, okay, here's a horde, go, so.
Yeah, it's kind of like that in Eternal, to be honest. And you start off with, like, just, like, basic weapons and abilities, so you need to build yourself up, but they just throw, like, really hard enemies at you straight away. So, like,
I can't wait to play that.
I remember in the first game, I think, like, it was a good bit into it before you came across, like, the Kako demon, which was the ball like thing that floats around, and the spider demon as well. I can't remember the exact names, but I think it was a good while into them. You find them in the first level in Doom Eternal, which is mad.
Oh my god.
I sort of respect that, though. It's sort of like, okay, we know you've played Doom, here you go, bang, you're, like, cool. Straight into it.
That is cool, because there's a lot of games, the game that comes to mind is just like the Crash Bandicoot series. The first level of those are always the intro levels to introduce you to it. But by the time you get to the end, obviously you've had to adjust your skill levels to be able to beat it. But then if you move straight on to the next game, you're all the way back to square one, and it's a little bit boring at the first because you're just going to breeze through the whole thing.
Actually, speaking about Crash Bandicoot, that actually just brings up, reminds me of a topic that would be good to talk about as well, is adaptive difficulty in games.
I knew you were going to say that, yeah.
Because Crash Bandicoot, I don't know if it was all of them, definitely 2, I think, brought in a kind of adaptive difficulty, and a few other games have done that as well.
Resident Evil 4 is a famous example.
That game blows my mind how good it is with the adaptive. I didn't even know that was a thing until years later, and I was like, that's amazing.
I think it's best when it's sort of invisible like that as well, where it's not like in your face. Like in Metal Gear Solid 5, you can get a chicken hat if you fail a mission enough times, and that'll make it a lot harder for enemies to detect you, but you have to wear a fucking chicken hat throughout the level, so it sort of hits you over the head.
I think it's a really good way to just balance difficulty for the player though as well, because I guess it doesn't really take into account what kind of experience you want. It more so just adapts to your skill level. Yeah. So I guess there's pros and cons to it, but I think like the majority of the time it will allow you to just enjoy the game, but you'll still have that bit of challenge that's suited to your level.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, in an ideal world there would be one difficulty level. There wouldn't be, and it would adapt, or it would be so well made that anyone can get past it. Really, like I guess like the older Final Fantasies and lots of older games wouldn't have had variable difficulty at all. They just would have a baseline experience that they hope most people can get past, or they would have optional content that is a bit more difficult, and that can be enjoyed by people who want more of a challenge. But the main story or the main canon of the game is at a level that everyone can complete.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of people who, when there's a game they really, really enjoy, they'll just say, okay, I'm going to play this again, but it's really boring now because I've played it so many times. I know how to do everything, so I'll just add an optional bit of difficulty for myself. So, like the lads who complete Dark Souls using the Donkey Konga bongos or something like that.
How do you? He's done it again. And that wasn't even a bad way you shoehorned the Donkey Konga. Congos.
I was thinking about that for the past 20 minutes. So you guys are going to have to repeat everything you said before because I wasn't listening.
Wait, has somebody actually done that, Steve?
Surely.
Maybe, I don't know. I know they've done it with dance mats and guitars.
Man,
no, they have. That's an actual thing. There's videos of guys who've completed Dark Souls using the guitars from Guitar Hero, and it's mind blowing. It's so insane. Cool. I've never even tried it. I tried to imagine how difficult that would be. But yeah, all these optional challenges, and this brings back to another thing Sean said there. Actually, trophies and achievements are something that can really extend the life of the game, which some people take issue with trophies and achievements, and they're not wrong. Some games are taking the piss with their trophies. And I remember I looked up one, there was like a list of the hardest achievements and trophies to get in any game. And one that jumped out at me was, there's one in Mortal Kombat, maybe it's 9 or X or one of those ones, where you have to play for 100 hours with each character or something like that.
Jesus Christ.
It's something ridiculous like that. And it's just, that's taking the piss. Like I really enjoy it when games have something really unique, like say for a shooter, they might have, like Doom is a really good example because they have ones like shoot three enemies at the same time with the shotgun, or I'm trying to think, kill 30 enemies using one power up. Little optional things like that aren't part of the main game, but just give it an extra element of fun. And like they're usually difficult. I do sort of take issue with games that have really piss easy trophies that anybody can get, like open the menu, achievement unlocked, use an item, achievement unlocked. They're a bit stupid, but yeah.
I really like trophies and achievement systems in games though, because I guess it just gives you a little bit of like endorphin rush when you
that's
see
exactly
it.
Yeah.
But like I totally get what you mean though. Like they're nice to have. They're completely optional, so like you don't have to do them. They don't mean anything. Like they don't build towards like you completing the game in well, in most cases, but they can be really annoying for like if you are a completionist type of person when it comes to a game.
I'm really not.
And it's just like, this is impossible. I'm never going to get this trophy, you know, and you just couldn't, you just like couldn't be bothered giving it the time because it means nothing at the end of the day.
Do you know there's a trophy, I think it's the Stanley Parable has a trophy or a Steam achievement, and you get it by not playing the game for 5 years.
No way, I'm probably nearly have that.
Yeah.
Really?
If you don't play the game
God.
for 5 years.
Hold
I
the
think it's
phone.
called like Go Out and Get Some Sun or something like that.
I gotta check this.
There's one in I think is it Bastion? I can't. What's is that? Is Bastion the one where you find out I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's not Bastion. What's the one where you play as a guy who you're trying to save a princess, but in the end you find out she's actually trying to run away from you?
Braid.
I've forgotten. Braid. Thank you.
Oh, is that the end of that game?
Yeah,
I didn't-
spoilers.
Oh my god! Sorry.
No,
I didn't-
I've completed it, but I didn't realize that. That's me.
It went over your head. You're just like, fucking cool, man.
I
And
was like,
rerun
jigsaw
graphics.
puzzles.
There's an achievement in that where all you have to do is get this 1 star in a level, but the only way to get it is you have to wait for this cloud that is crawling across the screen really slowly. So you have to wait for that to pass and then jump on that and get the star. And in an interview with the guy said, like, I think it takes something like 6 hours for the cloud to cross the screen. So I think the guy said in an interview that he was just trying to highlight the pointlessness of all these achievements, how dumb they are. So, but by the same token, I get where he's coming from. But as someone like who's like definitely a completionist, that drives me absolutely insane.
I know, yeah. That sort of meta thing where they're like, oh, I'm commenting on how, you know, useless and pointless these things are. And it's really like, yeah, but it's not fun. Like there's a side quest in near what's the one I just put? Replicant, where you have to chase down this guy who's run away from home, and you keep running after him and you keep running after him. And eventually you catch him and he just goes home. So you have to go to like every location in the game looking for this guy, and he just goes home. It's pointless. You don't get anything from it. It's just like one of those things that's like busy work, really. And it's just highlighting how the games are full of that, really.
Yeah.
Sorry, because I have the game on Steam here, and you're right. But I haven't unlocked it yet. But the last time I played the game was 2015. So I wonder if I log in.
You're talking about the Stanley Parable,
yeah,
are you?
Yeah.
How many?
You should do that now on the podcast.
Well, I can't remember how many years it was. I was just guessing.
No, it says 5, but I haven't, and it says I haven't played it since 2015. So I wonder if I open the game now, like I'm going to do it now.
Yeah, fucking live,
Do it
man.
now.
I have to download the game again. So
That's fine.
It's
Just
only
turn
2
up the
gigs,
volume so we
actually.
can hear the achievement,
Yeah.
like when it pings.
It's
in.
only 2 gigs, so it shouldn't take too long to download. Right, here
Let's
we go.
just wait here silently while Sean opens this game and gets an
Okay,
achievement.
hold on. It'll be downloaded in 40 seconds. Well, that's pretty quick.
Jeez, I can
Here's a
fill
little
40
fun.
seconds.
Here's a fun little side note now. Can you think of any games that are like incredibly easy but have a massive spike in difficulty, like for like one level or one boss or anything like that?
I think the Crash Bandicoot games are a good example of that, actually, because they're like pretty okay throughout, and then you get to some level. Like, isn't there one?
They're great for having very different, varying levels, like
Yeah.
different types of levels.
But
So-
like I think it was in the remake, not the original, where they didn't change something in like a bridge level that has all this mist or something like that.
those
Yes.
fucking bridge levels.
And it just made it so hard.
I was ripping my hair out trying to beat that level. There's a time trial on that. Time trials weren't in the original game, in the original first game. So this is completely new, and I was just roaring at the TV trying to get this right. Like, they also have an extra level that was designed to be in the original game, but they cut it because they think this is just too difficult. No one's going to be able to do this.
Oh, God.
So it was extra DLC, and it's annoying because I platinumed that entire collection, and I've got every single trophy except the time trial for that level, which is just impossible. I can't do it.
keeping you
It's
awake
so
at night.
hard.
Here,
It does. It really does.
I'm going to start this game. Okay, so I'm going to turn up my sound,
Anticipation.
and fingers crossed now we get this achievement, right? Live.
What are you going to do if you don't get it?
Well, it's obviously broken then. I mean, I wonder if it has to be exactly 5 years, because it's been over 6 years now.
No, I'm sure you're good.
Imagine it was like actually just you were 1 day away from getting it, and now you've ruined your entire streak.
Hold on. Not. Do I have to play the game? I wonder.
Yeah, just
Maybe.
start a new game.
Okay, it's loading.
Okay, guys, it's loading. Update. How far are we through loading, Sean? 50%?
No, just about done now.
Nearly done, guys. Nearly done.
98%.
Come on, here we go.
Nearly,
Here we go.
nearly a
Click
99.
this.
Story of a man named Stanley.
Okay, copyright. I'll just skip this.
Stanley
Wait, no, it
worked
doesn't
for a
matter.
company in a big
I can't skip it.
where
What?
he was-
Oh no, there we go.
Seriously,
Not seeing anything.
anticipation here. It's just bugged.
How do I get out my Steam overlay again?
Imagine like he never expected anybody to actually do this, so he just like there's no actual achievement at all. You can't get it.
No, it is there because I saw it on my like Steam achievements, but yeah, it's not popping up for me. I'm gonna go back and see.
You didn't already get it, did you?
No, it's locked. Yeah.
That's a
Well,
shame.
I've just reset my playtime now, so I guess I gotta wait another 5 years.
Oh my god, sounds difficult.
Yeah, that is very strange. But anyway,
Just on
I'll look into that.
that point you were saying, Steve, the Grand Theft Auto games had huge spikes in difficulty.
Oh, I know the San Andreas flying. It was the remote control plane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was insane. I actually remember I was at a friend's house. So yeah, this is PlayStation 2. Yeah, I was at a friend's house when I was a teenager and he couldn't get past that part. So I came over and played it and I was like, I think I must have played it 30 times and got it done. Completed the game or completed that mission. We were like, great. And we were like just driving around afterwards. We hadn't saved yet. And his ma had been telling him to get off the PlayStation for the last hour, right? And she came in, didn't say a word, just walked over and plugged out the PlayStation
no.
at the wall. And he
Horror
just
stories.
screamed.
Oh my god, horror stories we can all relate to. I remember the first time I tried to do the European Extreme mode on Metal Gear Solid 1. And in that game, in the highest difficulty, the boss fights I think are probably the hardest thing. They're ridiculously difficult. And I remember I'd spent ages trying to kill Sniper Wolf in like the snowfield. And I must have done it about 20 times, 30 maybe even, like, I don't know. But I finally did it. And when it told me to change the discs, I opened the thing, put in a new disc, put it back down, and accidentally pressed the power button out of habit. And I was like, no!
That
It
sucks.
destroyed me.
So, just to wrap up, guys, what do you think is the hardest achievement you've ever completed in a game? I don't mean a trophy or anything, but like the hardest game you completed or the biggest self-imposed challenge you've ever done. Like, what was the hardest thing you ever completed in a game?
That's a tough one. Instinctively, I want to say it was probably one of the Dark Souls games, just because some of those, like Dark Souls 2, there was a couple of times where I just thought I could just not play it. I could do that, but yeah, off the top of my head, that's probably the first thing that comes to mind anyway.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely just completing Cyberpunk on a base PS4. I think that's... I should get a medal for that, personally.
100%.
Sorry, lads. I'm down a Stanley Parable rabbit hole here. I think I figured... Sorry, can I just make a tangent? I think I figured it out.
Go.
So, just reading the forums online, and because it didn't unlock for me, some people are saying, oh, you needed to have it installed for the whole 5 years. And because when you reinstall it on Steam, it will temporarily say last played today because you installed it. So if you restart Steam, apparently it fixes it, but I've already fucked that now because I started it. But another way to get it is to set your computer's clock 5 years in the future and unlock. So I might try that at another point. But,
This is so pointless, and yet you're already like, I just want this achievement.
Exactly. This sort of I'm definitely a completionist when it comes to stuff.
No, I'm the same, man.
Even though I'm not bothered getting the other achievements in it. But, it's just because the novelty of having it. But anyway, sorry to completely go on a tangent there. Michael. What was your question?
Is this how you are in an interview? They're like, what are your strengths and weaknesses? And you're like, sorry, I just got to look up this fact about Crash Bandicoot.
I just go off into like my own dream world.
So what's the most difficult thing you've completed in a game? It can be a game or a mode or anything. Like what's...
Shit, that's hard to think off the top of my head.
I think I can tell what yours is. Is it completing Akuma mode without getting hit? Or completing Akuma mode in Evil Within?
I don't think I actually did that.
Okay, you've been bragging about that for 5 years.
No, because I remember we were talking about it for ages, but I went and checked my trophies and I don't have the trophy for it. So I think...
You've been living a lie.
I think I started Akuma mode, but I actually completed it on the difficulty just under that. We're talking about the Evil Within, of course, for anyone who doesn't realise.
Naturally.
Yeah, the one just before that, I don't know what it's called, Impossible or whatever. But and I think I started Akuma but didn't finish it. So
but you had that on your CV, so that's wow. You've been lying about
your
that.
Entire friendship is a lie.
I should not be on this podcast. I think I even talked about that in the Evil Within episode. But anyway, no. The hardest game I've played and completed.
Like one that, maybe it's not the hardest. One that comes to mind for me is Hotline 2. Because it's just such a war of attrition in that game, and I think it's a flaw in the game is that like having those big wide open levels where you can't see enemies and stuff, and it's just like you have to keep throwing yourself against that wall. But completing it feels good as well.
Yeah, I don't really know off the top of my head. Like there's definitely been games that have been a slog to get through and stuff, but I can't really think of one notable example. Unfortunately, sorry.
Two have come to mind, so I'll just take Sean's slot if that's okay. Well, I remember one thing that kept me going for a really long time was the first time I beat Omega Weapon in Final Fantasy VIII. That guy, because he has a move where he hits your entire party, every member of your party at least 3 times, and every single hit takes off 9,999. So I remember just sitting there and just in awe thinking, what am I supposed to do here? So that was really, really difficult. But the other thing was beating the single player campaign on Beat Saber was something I did last year.
Oh, wow.
That's sick.
Because that is, like, if you guys have seen some of the expert difficulty levels on that, it's insane. And it's a really, really good example of, that is a really good example of flow in a video game, because it does build your skill level up really, really well. You start off doing really basic stuff and it seems difficult, but by the end you're just flying around like a Star Wars kid in a VR helmet, like, so...
What?
You've seen that YouTube video with Star Wars kid, right?
No.
Oh yeah, he's like they reference it in Arrested Development. He's in his
that guy
garage or something, and he's just going around with a stick. And he's...
I haven't seen the actual video. That I remember it in Arrested Development though.
There you go.
Yeah, I must look that up. Another tangent for Sean to go on.
Look it up there.
Look it up now, Sean. Look it up so can you hear.
Hey, you fucking asked me to do that. Okay.
Wow, what a letdown. Well, on that downbeat, we should end the podcast. But before we do,
really?
I just want to. What did you want to tell me, man?
Nothing. No, I just didn't realize we were there. Sorry. I've been zoned out for like the last.
Sean,
we can keep talking, Sean, if you want.
What?
We're recording you talking right now.
This is recording.
Yeah, that thing there. That's not a robot dick.
Okay,
that's a microphone.
But it used to be a robot dick.
It's been repurposed.
Recycling is important, kids.
Yeah, sorry. Continue your outro there. Finish this fucking podcast.
We'll end this podcast the way we end most days in our lives. We'll ask
by punching the microphone.
Sean's got the giggles.
What if people don't like our senses of humor? Maybe that's what's holding us back as a podcast.
We're going to have a poll in the comments. No, wait, we can't do that.
Yeah.
You can do polls on YouTube now, though.
You can't.
You can. There's a community tab thing, and you can start a poll in
Who
that.
the fuck loves the community tab?
Members of our community.
Okay.
All 500 of them. Yeah, hold on, let me check.
You sound like the
fact check
mayor.
that. Let me just fact check that. Really
502.
quick. 503 now.
Oh, fucking hell.
Thank you, new subscriber, for joining while in. Yeah,
Aw.
thanks.
Johnny shits.
Thanks, babe.
So, guys, what are we all playing at the moment? I'm going to go to Steve first.
I'm playing the Stanley Parable.
Nobody cares.
Sorry, Steve. Go on.
But you haven't played it in 5. Yeah. So actually, this relates to the topic that we're talking about today. Actually, I've been playing Final Fantasy 15 finally, about 5 years later, after it came out, and that's a really good example of a game that has definitely adjusted its difficulty to become really accessible.
Yeah.
I really like it. It's a really good game. The story is kind of nothing. Like, it's almost not there at all. But it has a really good vibe. But I realized I've been playing for something like 30 hours and I haven't died once yet. It's a really easy game. But there is challenge. Like, you do have to keep active, but it's never ever insurmountable. Occasionally I've come up against enemies that I know if I fight this guy I will die, but it's really easy to just run away. So as long as you're not a gobshite about it, you're fine.
Yeah, I guess it's almost like The Witcher 3 or something, in that there's a higher level enemies, or like a lot of RPGs, there's higher level enemies dotted around the map, but you just have to be aware that, okay, I'm not ready to go up against them yet.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's a good game for if anyone's at all interested in Final Fantasies. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on what you think of this one, because it's very different. It's very similar to the Metal Gear Solid 5 argument, that game is very different from the rest of the series, but in some ways it does some really, really interesting things, and it's really fun. But I don't think anyone would say it's the best Metal Gear Solid game just because it's so different. And I feel the same way about this game. It's so different. I can't see anyone saying it's the best one.
Yeah, it does nail some aspects of it. Like, the open world is cool. The combat system's okay. I think they refined it a bit more in 7 Remake. Which is somewhat similar, but and I love the vibe of driving around. You can listen to old Final Fantasy music on the radio of your car.
That's
and
sick.
The camaraderie and the personalities of your party are like really well developed, I think. But as you're saying, the story is just whack. I think one of the biggest flaws is that it presumes in some ways that you know a lot of the backstory before you go into it. And it doesn't do a good job of explaining that at all.
Yeah, I remember when it was coming out, there was a big song and dance about like, if you want the full Final Fantasy experience, you should watch the movie. And there was these additional 3 short anime episodes that kind of filled out the backstory of the other characters, all these things. And it's a bit worrying because I think Final Fantasy 16 is probably going to go in a similar direction, because I've been reading up on like the lore of that, and I'm like, I don't know if I would have enjoyed this game at all if I hadn't read up this stuff already. So
But
we'll see how we go.
Games can introduce us to new worlds with backstories. They just have to hold your hand a little bit going in. Like, that was something great about Final Fantasy X, in that it had Tidus, or Tidus, whoever fucking way you want to say it. He's a fish out of water throughout the opening of the game. So that means that it can organically and in a way that works within the story explain all the history and mechanics of the world.
And I love that.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done. So I think there are ways to, bring you into a world that doesn't seem like an exposition dump. But yeah, 15 doesn't get that right at all. I throughout a lot of the game, I was like, why do I care? Like, this happens pretty early.
Why do I care?
Yeah, why do I care? Full stop. But pretty early in 15, there's a part where Noctis, the main character, gets some really bad news and everyone's really devastated. And I was just like, who's this guy again? Or why do I, like, you see him in one scene for a second. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess,
That's the funny thing, like, I've noticed this is a very, very small tangent, but the further the Final Fantasy series goes on, the harder it is to remember people and towns' names.
Yeah.
Like, I could not tell you, I've been playing it and I think I can name one town in it, maybe. But yeah, no, and like 13 was way worse. I couldn't remember anything about that game. But yeah, if you go back, like, you myself and yourself, Michael, we could probably name every single town in Final Fantasy VII easily because they were just like,
they're ingrained in our memory. Like, and even 7 and 8 to a certain extent. But yeah, once you get further in, it does get a bit more difficult. What are you playing at the moment, Shawnee?
I'm just about to tell you now.
Okay,
Stanley Parable.
You are hearing me speak.
Well, technically, the Stanley Parable is the last game I played. Just an update on that. I turned my clock forward 5 years and I got the achievement. So I should have
But you cheated, Sean.
No.
But we didn't hear the fucking ping.
You were fucking talking. You
Yeah,
weren't
but you
Why
weren't
did we do
interested.
this podcast if you're not going to hear the ping?
I actually didn't even get a ping. I started the game, quit out of it, and the achievement was there. But
Great.
yeah, no,
I don't
just
know what to think now.
I did technically I should have legitimately got it. So that I cheated only because Valve, please don't ban me. But anyway, to be honest, I'm not really playing anything new. I did try Grime, which is a new game that came out on Stadia. It's like an exclusive at the moment, but only a timed exclusive. And it's kind of giving me like Hollow Knight vibes. It's like a side-scrolling platformer puzzle slasher. It's got a bit of everything in it. It's cool. Like
The visuals look cool.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not blowing me away yet. I'm probably only like an hour into it.
Is that the one where the main guy has no head?
Yeah, he's got like kind of almost like a black hole for a head, like an orb kind of thing. And yeah, it's kind of cool. I can't explain any of the backstory in it or anything yet because it doesn't tell you anything when it kicks off. But yeah, it's kind of cool. Other than that, I'm just playing. I'm still in the middle of Watch Dogs 2. I think I'm nearly finished that one. And I'm like kind of on and off with Siege and The Crew 2 as well. But
those are like continuous games.
Continuous live service kind of things. I'm really looking forward to Riders Republic though. I know we were talking about that on the E3 one, and the beta for that is actually starting this month, which is free to sign up to as well. So looking forward to trying that out, and yeah, hopefully it's good, that'll be my next game I'm getting probably. But yeah.
Sick. So thanks for asking, guys. I'm playing
Sorry, Michael.
I'm playing Yakuza 0 at the moment.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. It is so fucking good. It's just so charming. It has such a unique like atmosphere and identity, and it has like this super serious main plot where like the cutscenes are directed so well. Like seriously, the cinematography in some of the cutscenes is legitimately great. The voice performances, the character animations, like the facial motion capture and stuff is amazing. Super serious, like betrayal and, vengeance and family ties and all this. Like it's like a Japanese
Fast and Furious.
Yeah, it's like a Japanese Yakuza soap opera sort of thing. But then you've got like all the crazy side missions where like you're helping a kid get back his video game, or you're teaching a dominatrix how to be mean to her customers. I had one mission that I was playing last night. It's where you hear this guy whispering to another guy and he's like, okay, tell me the password and you can buy some of the stuff. So he tells him the password, but you don't hear it. So you go through all this convoluted stuff to get the password, and he tells you what it is, and it's like a really long Japanese word. And I was like, oh, I can vaguely remember that. I'll be able to select that, because usually when it presents something like this, it gives you like 3 options that you select from. So I go back to the guy and he asks, what's the password? And instead of giving me 3 options, it opens the PlayStation's keyboard.
Oh no!
You have to type in the entire
Fucking
thing.
hell.
So eventually I cheated and took like a screenshot of the fucking, or a photo of the word. And I went back, told him, typed in the password. I cheated. I
That's
don't
not
care.
really cheating though.
It's like you with the Stanley Parable. You cheated at most of your life. You do it that way. But I went back.
most of my life.
Yeah, it speaks to your character that you would cheat in the Stanley Parable.
Cheers,
but I go back, I give him the password, and it's so funny because he's just like, okay, you got the password. And then Ryu, the main guy, just turns around and says, I accomplished my mission. I got the password and I gave it to him, and he walks off. And your man's like, do you want to buy anything? Like, wasn't that the whole point? And your man's like, no, okay, I just wanted to know the password.
That's amazing.
So
do you happen to remember what the word was? Do you still have the photo on your phone?
Shit,
or anything?
let me. I'll when we do the video, I'll put it up on screen. I'll make sure I keep it, but I can't. I'm not sure I even could say it out loud.
Subarashi.
It does. It begins with
Subarashi. Oh my god, amazing! Subarashi means fantastic.
No, it's not that. It begins with Subo, so it's Subu Tenhu Higeku Kiro. So
no idea.
Do you know what it
means?
means? Did you look it up now?
Subu Tenhu Higeku Kiro. I'm mangling this. I'll put it up on screen, and maybe if I can find like translation. I think they just wanted a really long word, and the joke is that you have to type in this word, and everyone just presumed that you wouldn't have to. But I love games like it fucks with you like that, and it's just a delight. It's just a lovely, lovely game.
It's just lovely. The kind of game you'd bring home to meet your parents.
Exactly. Except like it's just full of sex. It's just there's a lot of sex in it. I'm really enjoying it though. Fun enough fight mechanics as well, like a brawling system where you switch between different stances and have different. You can unlock moves. You actually pay money to unlock the moves, but it's not too challenging. It's just sort of it's just so engaging with all the funny new stuff it throws at you, and like all the side activities. You can go and play games in an arcade, and you can actually play like Outrun in an arcade, the actual version of Outrun. Wow. So yeah, really enjoyable. Such a unique game, and I'm really glad. Like everyone who plays these loves these games, so I'm really glad I finally like get why they love them.
All right, whatever. You like the game, we get it. Actually, no, on that, have you played any of the other ones, or have you only played that one?
This is the first one. I've heard that, you see, the weird thing is I was looking for a game I'd like to play, and I'd forgotten I had bought Yakuza 0. So I just started playing it on a whim, and now I love it. But I had read since then that Yakuza 0 is a good one to start with because it's a prequel. Even though it's like, I think 5 or 6 games came out before that. I'm not sure I want to play all the other games, because one thing I do know about the series is every game is very similar.
That's what I was thinking. They all look really similar, so it kind of gave me strong Assassin's Creed vibes, where I like, as a completionist, someone who wants to complete games, I also don't like just playing 1 or 2 games in a series. And like, if I like one, I want to play them all.
Yeah, so I can see that, but also if there's like a load of shit there, why would you go through that just to play like a good game?
To get the story, I guess, and the whole picture.
Yeah, fair. But
that said, that's why I stopped playing Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed. So
okay, fair. But saying that the newest Yakuza, Like a Dragon, is meant to, it's actually, the combat is now turn-based instead of like being like a fighting game or whatever you'd call it. And it's meant to be brilliant. It's meant to be really good. So I'd sort of be interested in playing that as well. But just like, even if it didn't have all the silly elements, the story is actually really engaging and really well told. So yeah, they're sort of like a mini miracle. I can't believe they've made like 7 of these, and like they're not the biggest thing in the world.
When was the first one actually? When did the first come out?
I think it was PS2 era. No, maybe early PS3. But there are a ton of them. I know like not all of them have come out in the West, or not all of them have been localized. At least takes a while for them to be localized, because there's so much dialogue. Like they use the Japanese voice actors, which I love, but it takes a while for them to like get translated and brought out over here, I guess. I think the first one came out in 2005, actually, so it's been going for a while.
Oh, okay, wow. About 16 years, yeah. How's that Typhoon, Stephen? Is it after Hidden, or?
Well, it's not, no. I mean, it's not really going to properly hit us until next week, but it has like started raining a lot recently, so we actually have 3 typhoons coming, not just one.
Jesus.
Is it meant to be like pretty serious, like, or is it a common thing?
It's fairly common. Like this is just typhoon season. We always get typhoons around this time of year. We always find it's like a running joke here because they always have certain festivals that always take place around this time of year, and they're constantly cancelled because of typhoons. So it's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
but yeah, sure. What can you do? I'm actually, I'm hoping it doesn't ruin the weather tomorrow because I'm going to this heritage park that has a Monster Hunter AR technology game running through it.
Wow.
So, like, you're supposed to explore the park and, like, catch Monster Hunter, like, monsters from Monster Hunter using your phone. It sounds absolutely wild. I can't really want to go, but if it's raining...
Yeah, well, if you do that, like take a few pictures or a video, and I'll throw them up on the podcast and let everyone see your beautiful face. Apart from the usual Radmobile
what more? I mean, that speaks to people's souls. I mean, that just is a relatable picture. We've all been there.
We've all been in the Radmobile of our lives. Radmobile. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for listening, guys. Sort of, I don't know why we went on a tangent.
Sorry.
That whole thing was a tangent.
Several tangents.
But
what was the actual topic again?
I think we were talking about the best
Cuban
snooker
Missile
game.
Crisis.
Yes, the best snooker game on the Wii U, which is of course Snooker 2011, the Pro Championship Edition.
Obviously.
On that note,
I even brought it up.
Thanks, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Cheers.
That was the worst outro I've ever heard.
Just do another one if you want.
Okay, guys, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Good luck. That's not the outro team.
Well, it is now. Anyway, it's grand.
Okay, cool. That's it. The podcast is over.
Sorry.
Are you still recording?
Yeah, still going.
Oh. Bye.
No,
it's over.
What?
It's over.
We're done.
Podcast is over.
Bye.